Well, what a day this is. I have to say, it is truly an honor to look out at the sea of faces. This is an amazing day, and I would really like to thank our college president, Darian Pollard, for this opportunity. Today, I am standing on the stage as a woman, an African-American woman in my third act of life. My first act, I was actually a teacher, a violin teacher, author, and decorated musician. In my second act, I was co-founder of Black Entertainment Television, which was sold to Viacom in 2002. I was going to say 2012. Those first two acts were the stairway that helped me become the person I am now in my third act in life. The lessons I learned from the first two acts have given me the foundation for who I am today. I am a woman who has rediscovered who she is, has embraced her strengths and weaknesses, has been emboldened, empowered, and not afraid of failure. I feel alive. The struggles, the heartbreaks, and betrayals were my greatest gifts because through prayer, I have found peace and happiness. In other words, I know who I am. I am a woman who is willing to take risk and challenge the world, both in business and in politics. Yes, I grew up in humble beginnings, just outside of Chicago. Believe it or not, my father was one of 11 African-American neurosurgeons in the country way back when. And he was not allowed to practice in white hospitals. He had to practice out of the VA hospitals, and we moved every 10 months because he could only operate on African-American patients. Through all of that, he taught me strength, fortitude, and never to give up on my dreams. The lessons I want to teach and talk to you about today cannot be found in a textbook, but they come from my heart, the struggles in which I have been through. In life, there are two worlds. There's the world outside, the world we can see, the world we can touch, and the world we can hear. It's the world we read about in the papers and the world we're confronted with every time we turn on the television, drive around the corner, or look out into the street. But there's another world too, and it's a far more important one. It's the world that dwells inside of us. It's the world that includes our heart, our soul, our hopes, our fears, and our dreams, along with the one thing that ultimately controls them all, our mind. Because once you take control of the world within, the world outside of you becomes your oyster. It becomes a blank canvas upon which you can paint anything, from a simple finger painting to the Mona Lisa. What's more, the only way you can change the outside world is by changing the world inside of you. And how do you do that? It's to take control of your mind. Nurture your mind. Feed it. Challenge it. Expand it, and ultimately master it. It's rarely exciting, and it's a dull and tedious exercise, but you must do it. And when you learn to control your mind and learn to discipline yourself to do the things your mind and conscience tell you to do, you can gain mastery over everything else, other than, of course, what God has in store for you. And as a young student, yes, I studied hard. I practiced my violin incessantly. Often long after my parents went to bed, I would always go downstairs and practice in the kitchen as not to wake them. Summers I worked at JCPenney and at the Rayovac Corporation because I didn't really want to be a financial burden on my family. But fast forward, after teaching the violin and selling BET, my real journey began. I took the proceeds from the sale and bought a beautiful farm in the rolling hills of Virginia. I retreated to ponder my next step in life. I had to rediscover who I was because I really did lose my way and get my passion back. And what could motivate me to find the light in my soul? That's where and when I fell in love with the little town of Middleburg, the town that is sat in the heart of Virginia countryside. That's also where I went and conceived the idea of building a resort and spa that would be both celebrate wellness and enhance Middleburg and its centuries-old horse culture. The problem was, I couldn't just write a check or snap my fingers to make it happen. I had to work to make it so, one step at a time. And this despite more than my share of local resistance. You see, at the time, Middleburg, for all its warmth, beauty, and hospitality, had become trapped in its own sense of self and its deep-rooted commitment to its own version of history. The town did not realize it could be more diverse, it could be more culturally and socially compelling, as well as possess a broader tax base and a more updated and efficient physical infrastructure. So here is my second lesson. It is the story of the salamander. People ask me, where did the salamander name come from? Now, I love to tell stories, and more importantly, true stories. So I will back up a little bit. Yes, I bought a farm in Virginia. The farm that I looked at belonged to a man by the name of Bill Ildesacker. He did not want me to take the name of the farm, and I was told that it's bad luck if you change the name of a farm. So he moved, took his name, and I went to the former owner. His name was Bruce Sunland. I said, what was the name of your farm? And you had it. He said, Salamander. I said, can I have that name? He said, yes. He says, but there's this big story behind this name. And I said, well, what is it? Bruce Sunland was a fighter pilot during World War II. He was shot down over Nazi-occupied Belgium. The plane went down, there was only one casualty. The rest of his unit was captured in a POW camp. He was able to escape, and he went across Europe on a bicycle with a very small license plate, but that's how the Nazis could really track who was escaping and where they were going. He ended up in Allied territory of France. Now, the US found out that's where he was. And they came to him and they said, we understand your unit has been captured, and they're in a POW camp not far away. And he said, yes. He says, but they said, I'm gonna give you the code name Salamander. And he said, why Salamander? They said, mythically, the salamander is the only animal that could walk through fire and still come out alive. He said, okay, we'll do that. But do you know, realistically, if you chop off the limbs of the salamander, they grow back. So there is really a TV show that was built behind this, and us older people know the show is called Hogan's Heroes. And that is the story of Bruce Sunland. So I asked him if I could have that name and brand it. And he said, by all means. Because what I was going through in that point in my life, I wanted to be the salamander. So by embracing Bruce Sunland's story and the story of the salamander, I learned to never quit, despite of all the hurdles and all the naysaying. And once before I stopped hoping and fighting for what I knew what was right. In other words, the salamander is about perseverance, courage, and fortitude. And to this day, the employees of Salamander recite that every single morning at lineup. Now, backtrack over the course of the past 10 years, for all those times when I was trying to build the resort, I laid my head on the pillow at night and felt completely beaten up and ready to quit because people were coming after me. There were people in Virginia that thought the Civil War still wasn't over. I reached deep in inside myself, and I knew my faith, and in my faith, I had to dig down and really find the strength and the boldness to continue my mission to build the resort. I went to dozens of town board meetings and walked into countless public officials' offices to plead my case, share my vision for Middleburg, and listen to one objection after another. Then, as a gesture of good faith, and to show my commitment to the project, I had to build an entirely new multi-million-dollar public water system for the town. I bought a small gun shop because every time I came in that town, I was confronted with the Confederate flag, and it was a gun shop. So I bought it, and I tore down that flag. And it is now a wonderful, genuine, high-quality food market. And those doors swing open and they welcome people of all creeds, colors, and persuasions. I recruited and brought to this beautiful small town some of the finest hospitality and food service experts I could find anywhere in the country. So good for you. Now, since the opening in 2013, Salamander Resort and Spa became the Forbes, the top honor in hospitality, the Forbes 5-Star Award. Now, there were only 2 hotels in the United States this year that were awarded that. That was my hotel and the Four Seasons in Lanai. So the first woman and first African American to get this award. And now the company has grown to 6 hotels. It is the home of any number of important annual events, not the least of which the prestigious Middleburg Film Festival is now moving into its 7th year. And I started that film festival to bring people to Middleburg and to see what we were able to accomplish. It has now been dubbed the number 6 most important film festival in our country and is now called the Road to the Oscars. So Salamander Resort and Spa employs what may be culturally the richest and most ethnically diverse staff in the entire county. And it remains the pride of and joy of countless longtime residents of Middleburg, many of whom were among those who told me it will never happen. And I tell you that story to illustrate 2 of the 3 points I truly hope you'll take home with you today. I was able to triumph and finish my resort. I was tenacious in my belief that this resort would strengthen the town economically. I look out at the sea of faces before me today, faces of all ages, colors, and genders. And I don't just see Montgomery College class of 2019. I see something much, much more. I see leaders and team members, doers and dreamers, movers and shakers. And here is my 3rd piece of advice. Never lose sight of who you are. I want you to own your space. You are the people who will not only lead the economic and social revolution taking place in this country, but who will support those leaders and help them turn their visions into reality. In short, I see the very face of America because you represent the country's best chance at reclaiming our past glory and indeed becoming greater as a nation than we've ever been before. I want you. I want people who continue to take nothing for granted because they've been given nothing. People who've learned the hard way that every day is a gift and every gift, especially life itself, is precious. Graduates of Montgomery College, class of 2019, I cannot say this enough. You are my heroes because you are our future You are the finest our country has to offer, its hopes, its dreams, and promise all rolled into one. And all you have to do is to continue the 3 things I detailed for you today. 1, learn to harness the power of your mind. It is and will always be the key to whatever the future may hold. 2, be the salamander. Be tenacious. Never give up on your dreams and shut out those outside voices who try to suppress you. I call them energetic vampires. They will destroy and delay your career journey. And last but not least, never lose sight of all that life has taught you up to now. Never drift from it, because that knowledge has made you who you are, and it has given you the powers that are now untapped and waiting to be unleashed upon the world. The combination of those 3 things, being strong-willed, being tenacious, and always keeping your feet on the ground, will allow you to compete with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Now go out there and change the world. Be bold, be independent, be socially responsible, and be culturally influential. And in the process, show them exactly who you are and where you came from. Congratulations.